What up, Fermented folk? We are live, me and Travis, from the same room, Great Falls, Montana. And we're here, but I won't tell you what part of Great Falls, Montana. We're somewhere in that beautiful, beautiful metropolis out there on the prairie.
It's a metropolis, I guess.
It may not be beautiful twice. It's debatably beautiful once.
It's debatably a metropolis.
Everything's relative. You know, if you look at the other towns around Great Falls, Montana, totally a metropolis.
Yeah.
So, moving on, we've got a show for you today. Today, we're going to be talking about Knock at the Cabin by M. Night Shyamalan, based on the novel by Paul Tremblay. And, but before we get into that, we're going to do a little update on life. Thank you for joining us, everybody. Travis, what's going on?
What's going
happening
on in my life?
Yeah.
What's happening?
Yeah.
In my life?
Yeah.
Life in general.
Ah.
I'm using this little bit to actually
try to generate
try and
a life
think of
update.
something
Yeah.
that's going on in my life. I'll think of something. Just
Sure you will.
Just
You
give
can
me
do it. I
a
believe in you.
quick second. I just got back from Philadelphia not long ago.
Oh, yeah, you did a trip.
I went on a service trip.
Oh, yeah, Philly.
We did service back in Philly. We
What kind of service?
We went to St. Francis Inn, which is a really awesome organization. They are a soup kitchen, but they treat it like a diner. So it kind of gives more dignity to the people who come in. There's a maitre d'.
So it's not just like line up and
No, there's
swap.
10 tables with 4 chairs each. The food's all pre-made, but they have like a big courtyard fenced in, and everyone comes into the courtyard, gets a ticket, and the homeless like go up to the door, and the maitre d' takes their ticket and seats them, and then the servers come and bring in their food, and there's selection for dessert, selection for drinks.
That's cool.
So it's like, it's here's an experience that actually gives you dignity as a person, but is also a free meal. We did that. We painted a playground for a low-income South Philadelphia school. What was the other? Oh, we did ESL classes, English as a second language, which were really cool because the way that my old boss, who we did it through, does them is like it's a conversation. So you're learning just as much as you're teaching. And I actually got partnered with a lady who knew English better than I knew Spanish. So I learned a lot more and it was kind of funny because I would say the phrase that was on the paper and she'd be like, that's a very like official phrase. Like, let me tell you the layman's way of saying it. And so I learned quite a bit that I immediately forgot. But
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah,
You'll
so
want that.
we were there for 5 days. Did 4 different service projects. Had a tourist day. Got to see Independence Hall. Take 4 students there. Yeah, it's my life update.
Nice. For me, the reason I'm in Great Falls, Montana is because I came home to help my dad get ready for seeding. For those of you who may not know, Travis and I grew up on a farm, which means we are probably destined to save the world at some point. Nobody's called us to action yet.
According to the hero's journey.
According to the hero's journey, we should be called to action any day.
Waiting for those invisible spaceships.
Yeah, so just so y'all know, this is what you're
Gandalf, if you're out there.
Yeah, or Obi-Wan.
Yeah, if you're trying to make any calls to action, just
Here we are.
you've got
Is it
their
Obi-Wan
numbers,
or-
I assume.
Or Ben. Or Yoda.
You could call them old
Yeah.
Ben.
Yeah, do you know a Ben?
I have a strong feeling, Pedro Pascal's getting up there in years. All right. And I think maybe Pedro Pascal is like our Yoda.
I think
This is my hope. I hope that we
Season
have
2 of The Rest of Us might film in Montana.
What?
No, that's totally fake.
God damn it, Colin. Why would
Set in Wyoming,
Come on.
Colin.
Why would you do that? That you got our hopes up.
Yeah.
And,
Nobody
listen,
might.
we're gonna do
might.
Pedro Pascal month, and I just hope that Pedro Pascal is gonna call us to action because I've been waiting my whole
Me
life
too. Me too.
to
Plus,
become a
Montana's
hero.
got way too much to look
And I
at
can't
to be
do that.
mistaken for Wyoming.
That very much depends on what part of Montana you're in, buddy.
What part of Wyoming, too?
That too. Yeah, I mean, if you in the Tetons, then Wyoming's a hell of a place. But if you're anywhere else, well, moving on.
If you're in the wrong
That's next
10
month.
square
Next month of
yards,
Fermented
it's
Fiction.
not much to look at. Crazy.
My whole reason for being here in Montana, I'm helping Dad get ready for seeding. So I'm back home helping on the farm. We have a 9,000-acre farm. We do wheat, barley, chickpeas, lentils, all that good stuff. So every year I come back a couple times and help Dad out. Our dad's one of the hardest working human beings on the planet.
Yeah.
So it's always nice to come back and help him out and play mechanic for a few weeks. So that's kind of my life update right now. I'm taking like 10 days off of riding to change a bunch of oil and fuel filters and, change a bunch of nozzles and hoses on the air seeder and do all that farming stuff. Get
Yeah.
ready for the season.
Rugged America.
Yeah.
Like a man.
And I'm both buying Womp Rats and my T15, so I'm ready. Whenever you need me, Pedro, you let me know. You just call me to action, and I'll be there on my narrative.
What's the super...
Although, if you could do the inciting incident without murdering my entire family, that'd be super dope.
That would be
Kinda.
preferred. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the super whiny line that Luke says when he's like...
I want to go to Taji Station with my
wanna
friends and
go to
pick up
Taji
some power
Station and pick
converters.
Burger!
Shut up, Luke. Drink your blue milk and get back to work. Little bitch.
Clayton's in Great Falls picking up some at Taji Center.
I am currently in Great Falls picking up power converters with my friends. That's the...
Wait, we
this
can't
show
say
is.
that because that might mean if you go home, then the farm's going to be burned to a crisp.
Yeah, you don't want to return home to crispier
We did
versions
have
of your
that.
parents.
Oh,
Unless some stormtrooper around, they can do with that precision, even though they don't demonstrate that throughout any other part of the series. We should be fine.
we should be.
Yeah. All right, so that's our life updates, and we're gonna move on. We are getting into the forced enrollment segment, which is where we roll dice. We roll d20s. The low roll attacks. The high roll defends. No matter what we actually think. We're rolling on a phone today because we forgot our dice because we are super prepared. And before we get into that, we'll give a brief synopsis of what we're talking about. So we're talking about Knock at the Cabin by Paul Tremblay.
Easy
the,
synopsis.
the movie.
That's the movie.
The movie is by Shyamalan. The book is by Paul Tremblay. I just keep going back to that.
I'm not sure.
Shyamalan made the movie. That's what we're talking about today is the movie.
Can I do the synopsis again? Because I think I'm good at these.
Synopsis? Sure. Yeah, why not? Go
You
for
can
it.
do it.
Uh,
Pedro, let us
hey.
know if he's actually better at this.
A group of 4 people show up to a cabin that is inhabited by 2 men and their daughter, adopted daughter. And they knock on the cabin door, hence the name.
Kind of like that.
And essentially,
That's it.
they tell the family.
That's the whole premise.
And
They
they
tell
say,
the
knock at
fam-
the cabin.
They tell the family, if you do not kill one of the 3 of you, willingly sacrifice one of the 3 of you, the world will end.
Yeah, so would you kill a member of your own family to save
big
a
deal.
planet?
Not
Or
a
is-
moment's hesitation.
More valuable than the rest of the planet? Good question.
Philosophical.
Let's get into it. Let's roll these
let's roll.
dice.
Right in there.
You go first.
No. Dude, bro.
You ready?
You've had too much beer.
Oh.
I'll go first. Let's go.
Good luck getting that up, Jeremy.
I got a 5.
Oh, I will.
I
Especially since you reminded me. When you flip people off and you don't remind me, that's when they slip through.
You won. You got 15. I got a 5.
Ah, that's good. The last episode of you winning made me uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It made me.
Sword.
Used to that.
It made me
Nobody's
uncomfortable.
used to that. All right, so Jeremy's going to fire up the timer, and then I will start because I won. And we'll go for 10 minutes, and then we'll have our beer of the week, and then we'll have some other fun segments. We're going to touch gloves.
Beautiful. All right. let's have a good, clean fight. No, and it's got to be willing. One of you can't throw the fight. All right, you got to take down somebody. So we're gonna have that some entrollment in
Criticize M. Night Shyamalan? Oh no!
Make me do it. That's the real twist.
Beans. I gotta. But yeah, so let's do this, or the world will end in 3, 2, 1, go.
All right. So my intro to horror was actually M. Night Shyamalan. So I do have sort of a soft spot in my heart, although he went through a dark period, let's be honest. Lady in the Water, The Village.
90%.
Pretty much anything from The Village until this movie. But this movie was actually a nice redemption for the old Shyamalan. He took some good subject material with Tremblay's novel, and he brought it to life on the screen. He stayed really true to the content of the book, and I think that really played to his advantage. And, you know, he didn't really do the Shyamalan thing, which I think he kind of overdid, which was like trying to always have a twist to the point that even Seth MacFarlane was able to make fun of him effectively, which, you know, you don't want to sink to that level where Seth can get the better of you because Seth MacFarlane. And this movie, though, I think they did a really good job of just tackling a pretty basic philosophical question, which is like, what would you do for the people you love the most? And are the lives of everyone else in the world more valuable than the closest people to you? I don't know. Like, for most people, actually, probably not. You know, like, how many people would kill their wife to save any number of people that they've never met before? Probably not very many, if you're really looking at it truthfully. Like, if most of us have what's called our monkey circle, right? Which is like, you got like 5 people in your inner monkey circle, which is like your closest people. Then you got your outer monkey circle, which, depending on how extroverted you are, can be a certain amount. But like, there's this theory called the monkey circle, you can look it up, that we only have a capacity to truly love like a certain amount of people and truly let in a certain amount of people. And that's a very like basic summary of it. But I think there's a lot of truth to it. You can only like really truly care about so many people in your life or in the world. And beyond that, you're really caring about a certain morality or a certain set of values, and you're sort of attaching groups of people to that. At least that's my opinion. And you're not going to surrender the people you love most for those moralities and values that are more abstract. When it's actually the lives of, like, say, your wife, your father, your mother, your daughter, your son, all on the line right in front of you, and you actually have to be the one to kill them. So it's a really big concept that's actually really simple, and I think this movie does a good job of tackling it just in a very like basic story structure. You've got people that show up and say, "Hey, gots to kill your daughter or your husband." You gonna do it? Because if you don't, the whole world's gonna die. And then you kind of got these people who are very rightfully like, are you sure you're not just batshit crazy? And there's also an argument to be made for that. Like hysteria, and like, how much are you going to believe random people that just show up at your house and tell you to kill your loved ones? Probably not very much. And that's the more surface level argument of the whole thing. Obviously, they have the phenomena starts to actually happen, and then you get deeper in the philosophical argument. But I do like how this film tackles that very simple question of like, is one person more important than the entire world if that is the most important person in your world? And it's kind of like we are all the center of our own universe theory. So I like that aspect of the movie. I liked how they tackled it in a pretty simple, like, straightforward way. And on top of that, it mixes in a lot of questions of like gay rights and gay belonging. That is also a very central theme of the movie, like people feeling attacked for their sexual preferences and for their gender and things like that. And there's all these like they're like big questions and big concepts that are all discussed in a very simple way in a simple format. This story does a good job of like honing in on these big questions and these big sociological debates in a very simple fashion.
I think the story does. I think the book that this story is based on probably had all of that really well done and conceptualized. But M. Night has a knack for trying to do more very unsuccessfully. I think this movie was very similar to The Happening, where I don't know what the hell the man does with his directing, but he just like, it's like he regresses performances. Like the Mark Wahlberg in The Happening is what I go to because Mark Wahlberg isn't that great, but he's not as bad as he is in The Happening, where it's like his line delivery is literally like, "What? No, I don't think I did that." Like, he literally speaks like that.
In the canon.
And I think that bleeds in not as profoundly in this, but in a way where M. Night makes these big decisions that just are jarring in a very, very bad way. Like from frame one, when Dave Bautista shows up and the sequence we get between him and the daughter is like these harsh close-ups, like right on his face and then right on her face, and I'm like, oh my God, M. Night, like, what are you trying to accomplish here? Like, I don't know these people. I don't care about these people yet. You're not doing what you think you're doing. And I think that's just consistent throughout the entire movie. Also, you pair one of the worst directors in the modern century with a WWE star turned actor, you're not going to get the best.
Batista?
Not going to get the best performances.
He knocked it out of the park. You're going to brag on Batista
I just
right
don't
now?
think M. Night knows how to direct somebody well. Batista does good when he's directed well.
He did great.
Denis Villeneuve directed Batista well in Blade Runner 2049. He was not directed well in this. I think he
Still
was
killed it.
wooden. I think every performance was pretty much wooden, except maybe forgot the one husband's name. I'm so bad with names.
How dare you?
The one that's basically a Christ-like figure at the end,
Josh Gad.
which we'll get to. Yes, Josh Gad.
Absolutely
No,
slay.
that's
Is it
not
Josh?
Josh.
That's
Gad,
not-
that's
that's
Jonathan
not-
Groff.
Sorry,
Thank you,
Jonathan
Jonathan
Groff.
Groff.
I got him mixed up with
Jonathan Groff, I think, was the only good performance out of all of them. I think the other husband is.
You didn't like the daughter?
No, I don't think. M. Night doesn't know how to direct kids. I don't. The Sixth Sense is an exception because I think that kid already
That
knew
was
how
going
to.
to be the thing I was going to say about that.
Yeah, but I just don't think he knows how to direct anything, and I didn't understand his point with the flashbacks. I think those would have worked in a novel form, but every time a flashback happened, I was like, oh my God, okay, you're going to try and force me to care about these characters that I just don't. And I'm going to take 5 minutes out of this movie that I'm already sick of and go back to a story that, again, I am indifferent to. He wasted his best actor, Rupert Grint. Keep your eye on that guy. He's doing good. He's coming out of the woodwork.
Is that Ron Weasley?
He's breaking away from Harry Potter in a lot of indie scene. And M. Night is like, yeah, I'm going to cast you as the guy that dies in the first 50. It's like, I don't understand the decisions he makes as a director. I never have. For some reason, he pulled it off in Sixth Sense and Signs, and he has not pulled it off since, and he still hasn't.
I don't know. I disagree with that. I think there was a lot of good performance in this. I think the two women that came with John Batista were really awesome. Or Dave Batista, sorry. Yeah. Bad at names as well. What was that character's name? Who are the characters' names?
I forget.
I can't remember.
Who could say?
We'll look at them.
They didn't as I can remember, they didn't refer to themselves very often. But the two women I thought were pretty phenomenal. They had pretty big roles to play. And I actually hadn't seen them in a bunch of stuff, either of those actresses. But I thought they both did a really good job. They both had very like high energy characters to play. And I thought they really brought the performance home with that whole group of people. I actually did kind of like what he did with Rupert.
Rupert Grant.
Rupert Grant. Yeah, I did like that he did that.
Redmond.
It sort of was similar to what they did with Bryan Cranston in the Godzilla movie, where they were like, "Hey, here's one of our biggest actors, and you don't expect us to kill him, so we're going to kill him." And I think that can be effective. But that also is a little bit breaking the fourth wall, sort of. But overall, I think that was also important because his character was sort of the least redeemable of all of them. And we saw that from the angle of, like, he was the one who did get in the fight with the husband in the bar. And so it showed that, like, they weren't there for that reason, I think was also part of that.
Beer of the week. Shut up.
I was about to make another argument.
Oh shoot.
Time is a cruel goddess.
I agree with anything I say. So we'll go to Colin first.
I gotta write this down before I forget.
We'll get there. We got to do beer of the week.
What do you got?
We can't read it.
Soul Splitter.
Gold Splitter Scotch Ale,
we go.
brought to you by the Orchid Brewery.
Jeremy, can you edit?
Wrecking Ball, nice.
Jeremy, can you edit this? I have to pee.
Can I drink this whole hams and you can drink
No.
this?
I mean, I wasn't gonna follow you to the bathroom or anything, but yeah.
Sour, I hate sour.
Well, why'd you even have it?
Because it's all I have.
This guy,
My goodness. Potty breaks.
Colin,
What's up?
you gotta watch The Banshees of Inisherin.
Do I?
You're a philosopher. You'll love it.
I
It's a
looked at the Oscar list and I was like, I haven't seen any of these, and most of them I haven't even heard of.
Banshees of Inisherin is awesome. Like, I can't remember the one guy's name from In Bruges, the older guy. Do you know that actor I'm talking about? He's amazing. I love him in everything he does, and I just can never for the life of me remember his name. He's also
Yeah, I mean,
he's also in the Ballad of Buster Scruggs. He's awesome in everything.
yeah, I didn't hear anything about that movie.
No, it was pretty like, I think, under the radar. But I mean, it got nominated for Best Picture and lost to Everything Everywhere.
Well, everything lost to everything everywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the cruel reality. This description, I just read it, and it's awesome. Skull Splitter is one of our strongest beers, named after Thorfinn Einarsson, the 7th Viking Earl of Orkney.
Oh, hell yeah.
Who's it from?
Ah, yes. Him.
The Orkney Brewery. So the Orkneys are islands to the north of Scotland, and they were actually under the rule of, like, Denmark, I think, for centuries, and they were invaded by Vikings and populated by Vikings and everything. So yeah, that's why there was a 7th Viking Earl of Orkney in the
Yeah, the Vikings were there a long time, actually, after they were
because in the
kicked out of
500s.
the UK. Everywhere else.
There's a good series if you haven't seen it, which is The Last Kingdom, that goes into, it's on Netflix. It goes into the based on books, and it goes into, like, the confusing part of English history where it's like there's Vikings and there's Cornish and there's Saxons and there's Angles and Irish. And that's the confusing part of English history that I've never understood. And then that show actually has, like, characters and people and languages, and it's like, oh, this is making more sense.
Does it do
There's no 10th Kingdom.
Does it do the history part well? Yes.
Oh, we'll get to the 10th Kingdom. Don't you even worry about it, Clay.
I
know you will
I am Uhtred, son
really,
of
really
Uhtred.
want to talk about it.
I do want to say, we did have the 10th Kingdom, everybody. We did have the 10th Kingdom. It was supposed to be done this month, and it was our first official veto from the show. And I initiated it. I take full
I still
responsibility.
want to do it. I started it and was like, I have to wait till my wife gets home. And I enjoyed the first episode.
I don't want
It's
to
so
do
bad.
I'm going to keep going, baby.
Will I? Yes. I don't want to, though.
Did you? Because you started it.
No.
Because you started it.
Not trailer.
You didn't watch an
I
episode
watched a
yet?
commercial and I was like,
Ah.
no.
Dude, the first episode is so 90s, so awesomely 90s.
Which
Anyway,
is weird
Colin.
because it came out in 2000.
Wait, what is Jeremy's beer?
Oh,
We're still on beer.
yeah, we're beer of the week. This is
Wrecking
Wrecking
Ball.
I bought it for St. Patrick's Day to make a good old fashioned Dublin coddle.
That.
I've never had that.
It's like a really good soup, like sausage. I got some Irish bangers and some bacon, potatoes, whatever.
And Matt.
So good.
How'd it come out?
It's dope. I'm still having its leftovers.
That's how soup works, I guess.
I'm still eating corned beef stew. All right, Jeremy.
Ron. Fermented
Roll
fact.
the transition.
Oh,
Segue.
it's going, baby.
Knock at the Cabin is based on a novel, which I think was actually called The Cabin at the End of the World by Tremblay. I think that's that author's name.
Paul Tremblay, yeah.
So that came out in like 2017 and it was actually got rave reviews. And then that before it was even published, it got picked up and optioned. And then it sort of went through a bunch of hoops and eventually, got picked up by, I think, Universal. And M. Night Shyamalan is a producer. And it's actually his first, I read it was like his first producer credit in like 10 years. And I mean, it says at the beginning and the end of the film, like, an M. Night Shyamalan presentation.
He's always very clear that he was
Tarantino style.
there.
And he loves Hitchcock, and of course, like all Hitchcock films, he's in this. I thought that was pretty well done. He's not like a Tarantino style, like, oh, listen to me doing an Irish accent, stupid part in the film. He's just a character on the news screen that's doing an infomercial about cooking, like a deep fryer.
You mentioned the word, like the most liked Quentin Tarantino cut in. The worst one is, let me put myself in Pulp Fiction so I can say the N-word 4 times and get away.
Oh, yeah, that too.
That's Tarantino, whereas M. Night's always just like, hold up, that was M. Night.
Yeah, he's always a very minor character.
That's a good thing.
It is, because he's a shit actor. I have to assume from what I've seen.
We'll have to see. I mean, the film just came out, so I don't know really what the numbers are for it, but it's based on the book. The book did extremely well. It departs from the book in various ways. In fact, the author himself had a lot to say about that when he saw the film. I think it was first premiered in like January, right at the beginning of the year. And so there were some strong differences between the book and the film.
Such as?
So you want me to go into them now?
Oh,
Yeah.
please.
Spoilers.
In case y'all didn't know, on Fermented Fiction, we heavily spoil everything. If you want to see this movie, go do it now.
Yeah, do
and
that.
come back. Or if you're one of those psychopaths that thinks it's just fine to get all the spoilers and then watch the movie afterwards, just keep on going.
Or if you're just like, I'm not going to watch this, then you can keep listening.
Sure.
Wherever you fall, Pedro, you're welcome.
Pedro, I assume just anything we cover, Pedro gets all his info about it from us.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, if you want to know what Pedro knows, then just keep listening to the show.
Yeah.
I hope Pedro doesn't sue us someday. Someday, Pedro, he's either going to come after us or he's going to, come on this show because he feels bad for us.
Colin.
Yeah,
That'd be
I'll
nice.
take it.
Basically, the film is almost exactly like the book up until we start, really threatening the main characters. So the 3 main characters in the film who live at the cabin. And so the young girl whose name is Wen, and in the film, basically, all 3 of those people live, and there's a sort of self-sacrifice. One of the husbands kills the other, and then they manage to end the world, or continue the world. The apocalypse doesn't happen thanks to the self-sacrifice. That does not happen in the book. The book is the opposite. Hard right, because in the book, basically, Wen is accidentally killed when Andrew and Leonard struggle over a gun, leaving her dad to make their decision in the her dads make the decision in the throes of unimaginable grief. Left alone to decide humanity's fate, they reject the choice itself, defying any god that would put them through hell, enduring hate and homophobia to find their way to happiness, only to take their daughter and still demand more.
Wild.
So there you go. So she dies accidentally, and then I think 2 or 3 of the captors are still alive and hoping that the world won't end. the apocalypse continues and they decide that it happened because she was not a intentional willing sacrifice. So
Right.
then it comes down to the dads to decide who's going to sacrifice, and they just don't do it. And the captors commit suicide like they do, and ultimately it's unsuccessful. And so they weather the apocalypse together.
Yeah.
Although it's more, they sort of see it coming and will experience it together, sort of in their grief over their daughter,
They go down with the ship.
presumably.
Jeremy.
Yeah.
Anything else, Colin? Did you have more facts?
That's it.
Oh.
Jeremy, you have notes.
Oh, yeah, boy, do I. My goodness. So, I'm going to save my big note for last, although it's one that I knew before even doing this episode. I think the place to start is that it would be very easy to frame the premise of this as a comedy. Like, very easy. Like, if you just start slightly differently and have people behave a little bit differently, like they just knock on the door, it's like, hi, sorry to bother you, but...
Yeah, if they didn't come off so damn solemn.
Yeah, if they were, like, 10%...
In other words, if it was a
solemn-
Simon Pegg movie.
Yeah, right. Simon Pegg.
Yeah.
Totally.
Oh my God,
Nick
that-
Frost, Simon Pegg, Edgar Wright. They
Yeah,
were
exactly.
also-
That's what I meant. Yeah, an Edgar Wright movie.
Please do, Edgar. Pedro, let him know.
Eddie,
Pedro.
get on that.
Cast Pedro as somebody.
Yeah, just
Ooh, yeah.
have him show up. It's great. We
Your
love
daughter. He's got range. But-
Yeah. the fella, he's got some range. My goodness. But yeah, even if you like, I don't know, you could probably make it a comedy by swapping out the music with something.
Yeah, it could totally be one of those where if you just change the soundtrack, it changes the entire vibe of everything.
Jordan Peele says that the difference between horror and comedy is the music.
And he's done
yeah.
both.
Yes.
He
Success.
knows.
So-
He would know.
Yes, he certainly knows.
The soundtrack of this movie was Batista's footsteps on the floorboards and his pants and belt and boots
And his
constantly.
Batista's swallowing is off the chain.
my
Did anybody else?
I want more notes from
Everything is
Jeremy first.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you know,
Swallow. Whole
yeah,
thing.
we'll get into it. Well, might as well go with Batista. I have written here, Dave Batista looks like the biggest person alive in this film. Like, he has never looked more enormous in anything. Which is kind of a disservice to the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, knowing that he could have looked this big the whole time.
I think it has to do with like the t-shirt, you know, like a
Yeah, maybe it's him being shirtless makes him look less humongous. But yeah,
He's a gigantic human being.
he's
Yeah.
just, oh my God. I mean, aside from that, his performance was like really good. So that was nice. Yeah, you
I
don't
thought so,
expect
too.
that, especially from like a former wrestler. You know, we can't all be The Rock, and even The Rock is like, okay, I mean, he's The Rock.
The Rock sucks.
Yeah, he's
Rock
good
crap.
for what he is.
Oh,
That's harsh. Like,
okay.
you know, he plays certain characters well. Like, if you watch The Rundown, fantastic piece of action cinema with Christopher
The Rock
Walken as
plays
a
The
bad
Rock.
guy. Yes, I know he plays The Rock, so you just need situations where you need The Rock, and then everything's great.
Like the Scorpion King.
Yeah, like
the Scorpion King.
He's The Rock. Yeah, it's great.
I am, of course, referring to the Scorpion King from The Mummy 2, not the Scorpion King from the Scorpion King.
Although that is very much The Rock.
Definitely. I guess they're both pretty much the same.
Yeah, I guess I don't know
take
how I
them.
feel about people knowing that I've seen that.
And your edge.
Okay, that's fine. So let's move
Carry
on,
on.
shall we? The next thing I have here is what I like to call the Shyamalan ego balance, where his
Yeah.
filmmaking goes in cycles. When it's at its best, He's down on his luck, and nobody in the world trusts him to make a good movie, so he doesn't get a lot of money, and he doesn't have, like, full control on everything. And I think this is one of those movies where it's in the sweet spot. So he starts off like, oh, it's indie. It's like, oh, that's pretty good, but yeah, we should keep an eye on him. And then he gets a little better, and people are like, ooh, that's cool, but then it's a little more divisive. And then when he has unlimited control, you get The Happening.
And Glass.
And Glass,
And
why not? I don't know. And The Lady in the Water. Yeah, John Leguizamo, buff on one side. What a movie.
And
Stunning.
The Village.
And The Village. Yeah, why not? Yeah, it comes and goes. You know, so he's having another renaissance. God bless him. And then, this is something that I do believe I mentioned to Clay before we watched this, but I have heard that watching The Happening with no sound is actually like it makes it a good movie.
It makes it funny.
Well, that's good. I like that. And plus, then you don't get to hear anybody talking, which is like positive, but you can still apparently understand everything that's going on.
That makes sense.
I don't know if it's. I don't know how I feel about it. This movie's great if you turn off the sound and just ignore that sensory fact.
Yeah.
Well, then you don't get Mark Wahlberg's line delivery, which was not an exaggeration. That is literally how he delivers that line is, what? No.
Yeah.
We aren't doing that.
Yep. I remember it being that way too. I'm like, is this a scary movie? Does he suck at movies? And then I watched The Last Airbender, and I was like, yes, he does suck at movies. The rest were just a fluke. That was before I found the balance. But anyway, and then when we're talking about the balance and good movies and stuff, what about Unbreakable? Like I feel like that was pretty good. Pretty good.
His best.
Thank you.
I disagree.
It's hard to say.
I mean, those are both great movies.
I'm a Signs stan.
Sure.
God, Signs.
So you're doing the Eminem Stan.
Yeah.
No,
that is the
something-
same thing.
Yeah, that means Eminem Stan, I think.
Yeah,
maybe it does.
Stan, and it refers to somebody who is a stalker fan. It's great.
Yeah.
I like Signs a lot. And I'm going to get into why.
Signs is great.
I'm going to get into why.
Yeah, I'll even forgive that Mel Gibson's in it. That crazy racist weirdo. What a
But
man.
mostly because Joaquin Phoenix is in it.
That's true, also.
Since you brought it up, I do have to ask this question.
Oh.
My assumption was that M. Night Shyamalan, like his fall from grace was, The Village, and everything has been terrible since that. However, when I looked it up, he had done a bunch of producer credits for a bunch of TV shows that I have not watched.
That's different. Correct.
Are those good? I don't know. Like, tell me if he just did TV and that's where his good shit is.
His Apple TV production credits are actually decent, but his directing is not.
Yeah, producing
Wasn't it?
is
Was it
so not the same
something Pines?
Yeah, that Wayward Pines was okay.
Wayward Pines. Was that good?
It was decent. He's
And
not
another
a bad,
one started with an S.
He's not a bad producer.
He is
Right.
often a bad director.
Yes.
Yeah, bringing together a good team and being the head of a team is two very different things.
Yeah.
He's really not a bad. Wayward Pines and his other the Apple show with Rupert Grint.
Servants or
Servant is pretty damn good. I mean, it's decent. I didn't mind it. You have more notes.
I do. I have a lot
So
of
you're
notes on
reinforcing
this.
my
I don't
opinion.
know I don't know what that's all about. But yes, I do have more notes. And this is a point that was made during the debate. Does it matter who's redeemable when everybody dies? Like Rupert Grint was the least redeemable of everybody. So so you kill him off first, but they all die, so does it matter if he's the worst? I feel like he probably could have had the most interesting arc of everybody that, was trying to prevent the apocalypse.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Because he could have had a redemption.
Yeah, he could have potentially had a redemption and made his death actually sad, in which
He kind of
I
did.
was sad.
You would argue he did have a redemption arc of sorts?
I mean, because the was real is not that he's willing to sacrifice to save humanity.
he had that much choice. None of those people seem to have a lot of agency.
They had the agency to show. they had visions, which brought them to the cabin. He didn't have to
I guess
go.
they technically did all choose to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you
No,
see a
but I
shitty
mean,
human.
like,
I empathize with him because he just like on his knees crying.
He did the thing.
For his sacrifice. It's like, oh my god.
boy, did he ever do the thing. And I guess, he
did.
put himself in that order. A good,
Did he? Do you think they got to choose the order?
I don't know.
I feel like there
Maybe
was
they
an
just
autonomy.
saw the order and it was like, oh, okay, yeah, so I guess I go first because this is how it goes. And then they just did
Yeah, I feel like that was part of the thing.
Yeah,
Like they were all. It seemed to me by watching the movie that was a place where they were attached to a certain order, and he was definitely first.
Yeah.
Like, there's nobody. They didn't like have.
Well, I mean, it's.
came forward, and they were all like, "Yeah, that adds up."
I mean, it's this story of Isaac, right? Sacrificing your firstborn, where it's like they all know what's going to happen, but that doesn't mean that it's less, insane for them to actually get out on their knees and be willingly killed by people that they have seen in a vision kill them.
Yeah.
That's what I would argue.
Speaking of things that are insane, this brings me to my final note. And
You saved this one for last.
yeah, I saved the big one. I'm being thematic and like, whoa, a big one. Keep the listeners engaged. So,
Doing the drum roll with me. Go on, do a drum roll.
yeah, Colin, why aren't you doing a drum roll? My goodness.
I think Jeremy wants.
That's good. I don't know. That's good.
That's how they do it in Christmas Vacation.
Yeah, just very good. So my big issue is that there's nothing that in the movie that like super convinced me that what. Okay, so I was definitely convinced that these people like had visions of the future and whatever, and something supernatural was going on. What I was not convinced of was that, killing a rando in the woods would have any bearing on anything happening anywhere in the world. So, there's no real explicable reason, other than, well, they said so, that the apocalypse should have been thwarted. Maybe. It just wasn't gonna happen.
The apocalypse.
Yeah, like maybe that was just all of the juice it had in it, and it was just gonna stop. I don't know. Who could say?
How can somebody who stands so fervently behind absurdism have that view of this movie?
Because that's the opinion that this movie has of itself. Okay?
I think this movie very,
Attacker.
very firmly stood upon that premise was sound.
The fact that it changed the ending of the book.
It stood on the foundation that the premise was sound without actually, in my opinion, convincing people that it was sound, that, what these people in the woods were doing was just mattered.
Airplanes falling out of the sky wasn't enough to solidify that was really happening.
And then a map miraculously just stopping falling out.
And then they just stopped, and
But
when it happened, and the whole.
Well,
I
there's...
think your argument was a more, as Travis sort of suggested, I don't know if this was your point, but it sounds to me like you were suggesting that in the book where it happens regardless, more reinforces Jeremy's point where it was going to happen either way,
either way.
which was because they chose not to do the sacrifice, so we'll never know, but that means it was going to happen anyway. And so the sacrifice doesn't matter as much. Where in this one, the sacrifice matters 100%. It matters all the way. It immediately stopped everything. Literally, airplanes falling out of the sky, everybody gathered in the diner, listening to the radio together, and then we pull up to that diner, and everybody's like, hey, I guess it's cool now.
Yeah, but can you say why it mattered? Why
Because of the
anything
sacrifice.
stopped? Why did the sacrifice mean anything?
Because
Can I get into why?
Sure, go
Can I
ahead.
get
You got
my full opinion here? I'm going to get into
Are
my
we jumping out of notes and into the next?
That was his last note, and my
And it's
actual
a perfect
opinion
segue.
addresses
Oh my
his.
So
God,
this is how actual transitions work.
Yes.
We're doing.
I don't want to get
You're
into whole.
so fucking good at podcasting. My God.
What did you actually think? Let's transition.
My actual opinion is I
Let's
think
delay it a little bit longer. Let's run a little
No.
A little sweep from Jeremy. It'll be called Travis Can't Wait Any Longer.
Yeah, I'm not gonna.
This is M. Night Shyamalan's best movie since Signs. I also think that's my honest opinion. I lied
agree.
about Dave.
Yeah, solid.
Lied about Dave Bautista. I think he did absolutely fantastic.
Banger.
I think
Good.
Good. People are sleeping on him. He's a fantastic actor.
Yeah.
I actually saw an interview with M. Night Shyamalan where he was like, I was struggling for the longest time to cast Leonard because in the book he's this large, intimidating man who is also very soft-spoken and gentle. And he's like, I couldn't find anybody that fit that bill. And then I watched the opening scene of Blade Runner 2049 and I said, that's him.
That's the guy.
Dave Bautista is the guy. And I think he did. He knocked it out of the park.
He was
It's
awesome.
perfect for that.
My main point to answer Jeremy's contention in his notes is that I think not only is this his best movie since Signs, this is his most theological movie since Signs, because hearing Colin tell the actual ending of the book even solidifies it more that I really think M. Night was making a theological point about sacrifice. And from my theological perspective, where I've studied Christian theology, the sacrifice of Jesus Christ. And I think, like, that's pretty much what happened. And the fact that he saw, like, a light and a shining figure at the first sacrifice of the person, and he's the one who gets killed at the end. Eric, I think Eric is a Christ figure, and I think the point that M. Night was making with his change to the script is that there's a constant sacrifice of people, and that's like the constant sacrifice of Christ, is like he died for humanity to be saved, and M. Night's took this horror story and is saying like, what if that, here's the what if proposition, is what if that was a constant thing that had to happen on Earth? It wasn't just Jesus died in 0 AD.
It has to continue.
It has to continue every single year to someone new. That's the premise of the film. Would humanity continue to do it? And his answer, I think, is resoundingly yes. Even in the most dire situation where Eric and Andrew take it down to the last second and say, we don't want to do this. Still, human beings, despite all their flaws, despite all the shittiness that we put out into the world, will say, yes, we will sacrifice ourselves for the betterment of humanity.
Someone will.
Someone will. Someone will.
The Andrew.
One of three people.
Andrew is not going to do it. He was
33% of the time.
Even that. I think Andrew represents the selfishness of humanity, but even Andrew pulls the trigger.
True, he does.
Eric does not pull the trigger.
Which is
Andrew
hard.
pulls the trigger.
Super hard to do.
Which is hard.
That's harder than taking it.
I liked that he changed that ending. And I say it's his most theological sense, Signs, because this is a bit of a tangent. We can talk about it later. But Signs is not about aliens.
Of course.
Signs is a movie about demons. But anyway.
It's a freaking metaphor.
Definitely about aliens.
It's a
There are
demon.
aliens in it, yeah.
There are literal aliens in it.
But they're a metaphor for demons. M. Night said it himself.
No.
But even
Once again, Travis has to put everything into his teleology, theological
Go
bent.
look at it. Go look up his interview explaining that movie.
Yeah.
Why do you think they all die by
You
water?
never listen to the director. That's
Why
outside of
do you think
formalism.
they all die by water blessed by a priest's daughter? They're demons. He made a demon movie without the demons. That was his whole point. This is
water.
It's holy water. Anyway, I think he did that again with this one, and
Holy water, bro.
I think when he sticks in that kind of realm, and again, to Jeremy's point, when he doesn't have complete freedom, I think he does well in the same way that Michael Bay, I can't believe I'm saying this, but the best movie I've watched from Michael Bay was his war movie that he didn't write. I think when they don't have complete freedom with the storyline.
Oh, yeah. George Lucas is the same way. As soon as he
do
was
well.
super famous, his movies were not as good.
I do think he made a lot of really weird directorial decisions that jarred me, like the close-ups.
I agree with your point about the
hell.
the flashbacks, like there's a good way to do flashbacks and then there's a bad way to do flashbacks, and these flashbacks very much seemed like they were intrusive. I think you do need flashbacks, but it was like oh, here comes another one.
That's what took it
like book
great.
flashbacks.
Exactly, Jeremy. To me, those felt ripped right out of the book. But, you know, I feel like in the book, they probably flowed together better, you know?
Or like a
longer
chapter ended,
narrative.
and then the next chapter, oh, it's a flashback chapter or something.
Oh, and I lied about Andrew too. I think Ben Aldridge did a good job. I don't think anyone in this movie gave a poor performance.
I think all the acting was pretty top
it
notch.
was
Top notch.
so good. Like my gut does.
Really?
Yeah, and it could have been so bad. Like, you know, you have a bunch of actors in a room together, like trying to make it look convincing that they, you know, one of them is going to die.
I think one bad performance makes that entire foundation crumble. But luckily,
Yeah, definitely.
Everybody was really, really solid. And again, like I said in my debate, I think it was just such a big like question framed in such a simple setting that it made it a really cool way to like tackle it. And I do think it did a pretty good job.
Yeah, I think it very much felt like a play. I mean, virtually 99% of the thing happens in one room.
Yeah, it was a bottle episode, but there was only one episode, so it's whatever.
Yeah, with the exception of the flashbacks, and even those, like most of them were at the cabin too. Like, totally could be a play, honestly.
Yeah, it could be a great play actually.
But it was pretty much all in one setting.
Yeah, that would kind of.
But I think arguing with Travis that the original book ending is definitely the best ending.
I don't know if Travis was saying it wasn't.
I can't say that because I haven't read it. I don't know how it was delivered. I think delivery, there's a lot. And I've only seen this delivery. And I think this delivery spoke to me personally because I think it was so rooted in teleology, like you say, or theology. And
See, I think I saw a completely agnostic and non-theological, purely philosophical thought experiment. Which was in no way religious.
from the movie?
No, I think the changing of the ending really puts this in it basically it killed it as a philosophical thought experiment.
I agree.
I agree with that.
I agree.
It gives
I
a
think M. Night,
theological message.
I think that this solidifies to me that I think M. Night is Christian, if not Catholic, which Catholic and Christian are kind of the same thing but different. But like, he's one of the two. If I think I might be wrong, I've never researched what his religious background is, but signs in this convince me that he has a Christian message in his narratives.
I still think there's quite a bit of crossover between philosophical thought experiment, theological pondering.
Oh, 100%.
I mean,
They bleed
obviously
into each
they're
other.
very similar, but it doesn't necessarily have to be one without the other. For example, all the things you used as examples of cementing it as a theological piece, which I think you're right. For the record, just knowing M. Night Shyamalan as a person, but you could still view that as all just like factors that go into influencing a character. Because let's keep in mind, he had a concussion the entire movie, right? And like that wasn't an accident. That was on purpose. That was so that we would kind of dismiss some of the crazier things that he said and thought throughout. And I think that's part of what makes it a philosophical thought experiment still.
I don't think so. I don't think it makes us dismiss that stuff. I think it's a physiological explanation for his religious stance.
I mean, I'm dismissing it as we speak.
So his right. I mean, well, this comes to your point, Jeremy, is that like that's the question. Right. I mean, I think this film is perfect for a philosophy class or a theology class to debate utilitarianism and to debate deontology and to debate ethics as systems, because the question is, are these people delusional or are they rational? And are their actions rational or are their actions, irrational based on that? And if you have the ending of the film where the apocalypse ends because of their actions, then it's like, okay, this is supernatural. This is fantasy. But if there's physiological underpinnings to all these things, then it's like, well, no. Like, did he see this white figure that's angelic, or was that a product of his concussion? And do all these people have real visions, or is it a communal sort of psychosis?
Here's the thing, though. The more we're talking about this, the more I'm liking the movie ending more because, and I can't believe I'm saying this as a person who normally loves ambiguous endings, I think for this one, it would be too drab and macabre of a worldview for me.
Be cynical.
It'd be so cynical to just say, we don't know. Like, maybe the world does end and they ride it out together. And that's the way the movie ends. It's true love is, I understand there's something bigger than me, and that is more important. And if I truly love these two people, my husband and my daughter, then I will sacrifice myself so that they can. I love that part. That is my favorite part of the movie, is when he's giving his speech and he says, I see our daughter and I see you, and she's coming out as an adult and you two are joking. I thought that was a beautiful sequence because it's like, I see something better than just us, and I'm willing to die for it. I think that is so much less of a cynical worldview that M. Night achieved than it sounds like what the book achieved. But I can't say for sure because I haven't read it.
Well, in the book, the daughter was also dead. So, like, if the one guy was his husband, then he would have had nobody.
Nobody.
And so that's an entirely different question to be even asking, right? Like, I think it's way easier to sacrifice one person if you at least still have one other person.
If you know they're going to be with someone.
And you know, like you said, like if literally there's a vision of the future where you guys are happy together and there's something to look forward to. And it's like, yes, I know for a fact that you will grow on past this and there's something to live for. But like, if he had just already killed his daughter on accident and it basically didn't even count for points, and then he has to still kill his other most important person in the world, I think then, like Colin's saying, that's more of a philosophical thought question, which is like, would you do it? Would anyone?
Yeah.
And should anyone be expected to, just for everybody else who they don't know?
Yeah.
You know, and for some potentially delusional psychopaths that just showed up at your cabin. Like, you know,
Jeremy seems
who the hell are these people? Jeremy, what do you got to say?
Oh, yeah. Well, you know, I feel like the ending was still very ambiguous, but maybe that's just because I didn't fully buy into the impact that these people are having. But I do get the sense that they are choosing to believe that what they did mattered, which is very important in the grand scheme of things for their own sanity.
Where's the disconnect, Jeremy? I
don't know. Like, I'm really usually so on board for this kind of thing.
And they literally just fucking stop. And like, how can it be clearer than that? It's not working for you.
It's an Occam's razor thing, you know? The simplest answer is the best answer, you know? Like, does it make more sense for it to be...
I don't know. What's simpler than airplanes no longer fall from the sky inexplicably?
Probably that whatever was causing them to crash just stopped. Not magic is real and somebody in the woods shot another person in the woods, and that stopped airplanes from falling out of the sky and stopped lightning from striking random places. You know, it's hard to explain how, you know, a dude shooting another dude, like, affects the weather and computer systems and, you know, earthquakes and seismic activity and tidal waves, you know?
Well, that's the point.
I literally don't know. I don't understand how this is...
I do think that is the point. Like Colin, I think that's what Colin just said. That's the point.
It's like humans are pattern-seeking individuals. We do that communally and individually, and so these things, they don't believe, right? They have this worldview that planes don't fall from the sky, fires don't happen, earthquakes don't happen multiple times in close succession all over the world. And then those things do start happening, and then they all of a sudden, that destruction of their point of view, their worldview, that begins to crumble. And then the only thing left that's rational is what these crazy people have been saying, which is that one of them has to sacrifice one of the others. And when that does happen, then those apocalypse events stop. But of course, the question is, did it stop because they sacrificed someone, or did it stop because everything is just mechanical in the universe and it wouldn't have mattered what they chose? That's the struggle of all human beings and religion itself.
Did it matter, or was it just over?
In the book, Colin, totally agree with you. Like that, where if they kill somebody and then the people are like, sorry, didn't count. Everything's still happening. We're going to carry on. That would be totally different than in the movie where they do it and all the shit literally stops on a dime. And it literally all stops immediately. And literally all the news channels are like, hey, all the stuff that was happening, it ain't happening anymore.
I think you're focusing on the planes when you should focus on the infection, because that's something that's.
I'm focusing. No, I mean everything.
No.
I'm saying everything.
I'm saying, like, to more solidify your point, is the planes could be like a mechanical thing of like, oh, the pilots figured it out. The mass spread of a rapid infection is.
Yeah, and then they're just like, it ain't
And then
happening.
it's like, oh yeah, the infection stopped spreading. That's more abrupt.
True. Yeah.
Like, that'd be like if somebody came on the news and was like, oh, COVID just stopped.
COVID's gone. Nobody has COVID anymore.
Yeah, that would be if COVID stopped the day they first reported COVID.
That's what happens in the movie, Jeremy. I'm the advice.
Yeah, you know what? You know where else that happens? Basically, every other disease that makes it on the news.
That's not true.
You're right. They don't bother to report that everything's fine because nobody's gonna watch the news when. The day later it's like, oh yeah, actually everything's fine now.
I think Jeremy he's stuck in his disconnect, and that's fine.
He's not going to come over.
That's fine. He's not coming to
Like, I still liked the movie, and it's fine, but like, what?
It is. I think it gets a little boring. It gets a little too focused on one sequence, which most movies that are like plays, like Colin said, kind of do that. It's like, okay.
Yeah. All right. Here comes another news clip. Bad stuff. You're gonna kill yourself.
I think my favorite part
Flashback
about it is Dave Bautista's character, because I think he really embodies that. Like,
yeah,
that
I wanted more of him for sure. I think it could have. Right? Was there even a flashback with him? I don't think so.
Nope.
And there should have been.
Yeah, basically,
because I feel like it's kind of the
backstory.
It's more interesting to me to have a rational person, especially one who's a second grade school teacher, how they end up being okay with killing people.
I don't think he was okay with
in order to save the world.
That's what I think is the most beautiful thing about his performance in particular, and the other actor. I mean, Nikki Amuka Bird and what was the other lady's name? Abby Quinn, Rupert Grint. I think they did a phenomenal job of like displaying that. And once again, this is just what I studied, so I can't not go to it. But like, that's kind of the Jesus Christ figure in them as well. Is this is the only way? I don't want it to happen. Like, that's kind of his like vision in his dream where he talks to God before he goes to the next day where he gets hung on the cross. Is like, you sure? Are you sure this is the only way? And God's like, yep. And like, I think all their three characters did a really, really phenomenal job in displaying that emotion of like, we don't want to be here either. Like, we really don't want to be asking this of you, but we're 100% sure this is it. Like, I care more about my second graders than I do myself, and I need you to listen to me. I think they did a really good job at that.
Yeah, I was waiting for that point in the film where we would cut to Leonard Batista uncovering the reality of his visions. So the truth of his visions. I thought that was going to be a flashback and a whole explanation. I thought there was going to be a whole, like, you know, he looked up all these books in a library and it fits this Fibonacci sequence, fits this other thing. And so it has to be this way and it's not just random and stuff. That didn't happen.
Something like that maybe would have sold me on, like, yeah, this makes sense that this would stop that. Like, yeah, he read about it somewhere.
Did we need a flashback though? I mean, they all iterated multiple times about how they like met and all these different like reasons they knew the visions were true.
Yeah, it's like that old adage, tell, don't show. Wait, no, that's something else. I'm here for the rest of the show. Thank you.
How many beers, Jeremy?
Now, I would sip one or two, you know, just because, like, I still very much enjoyed the movie, and maybe a little beer, or something mind shattering that makes me feel like I have a concussion will make me buy into it a little more. Yeah. Maybe I'll be converted if I feel like my brain is swollen.
There you go.
How are you,
Colin?
from liking a movie to liking it even more?
I think you drink a beer or do like a Jaeger bomb every time a capturer, is that the word I'm looking for? Every time one of them dies. So
There
that's
you
four.
go. Yeah, that'd be a good drink.
That would be a good drink.
Yeah, I'll change my answer to that. That's good.
I mean, the alternative is every time there's a flashback, but that's not as fun.
Or every time you hear John Batista or Dave Batista, I don't know why I keep saying, yeah, aggressively swallow
His brother.
into his laugh microphone. Swallow.
I didn't notice that. I'll have to go back.
Oh, dude, now that I've said it,
Yeah.
you might.
Yeah, now you just hear his whole Adam's apple just battling the lav mic.
I can hear
I just heard his boots. There's the foley for the boots across this hardwood floor constantly.
I can hear the director.
Dun. It's like, okay, I get it. He's a big dude.
See, I can hear the director saying, "That was really good take, Dave, but I need you to just swallow hard."
Yeah. I really want to hear the hesitation and then swallow.
Well, all right. Well, we'll have Jeremy go through the whole movie and count up all the swallows
Yeah, you want me
for the
to
drinking game.
pirate a film that's in theaters? My God.
I don't know how many beers it is, but however many beers you get through, if you take a good drink, like a solid drink every time you hear the swallow. However many beers that ends up being.
That
I'm gonna say, start with one chug because I'm going into an M. Night Shyamalan movie. So okay. I need to be.
you'll want
Oh, the opening screen. I was like, fast forward.
But here we go. I shotgun a beer because I'm like, I can't be sober for this, and then I shotgun another one in the weird
close-ups.
close-up sequences because
It's gonna be.
I'm like, yeah, all of my suspicions were correct. This is gonna be terrible. But then it starts getting better, and I slow down to just like 1.5 through the rest of the movie. So I'll say 3.5. Yeah.
So you're telling me that there's
Two shotguns in succession because I'm like, fuck. Oh.
yeah.
Yeah, it's like the adult version of Duck Duck Goose.
Yeah. Fuck. Oh.
Truly.
That's a
patent
Good
pending.
game.
YouTube clip, right?
Right up there with Dixon Space. Going in our greatest hits.
Dixon Space.
Go.
I still want the Dixon Space t-shirt. Let us know if you also want the Dixon Space t-shirt.
Yeah.
It'll be a Patreon exclusive.
That would look like.
Me either.
You just
I really-
It would look
isolation
exactly
with
like,
fire coming out one end.
It would look exactly like Blue Origin's rocket, and everybody just think it's a rocket T-shirt.
Yeah, right. Until
What a
you look a
rocket.
little.
It'll just have that rocket, the Blue Origin rocket, and it'll just say "in space" underneath it.
Yeah,
In space.
exactly. That's all it needs.
Very subtle.
Yeah, very subtle. And then I want T-shirts that say Pedro Pascal is my spirit animal
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
because I mean,
Was
Yeah.
that a Travis quote?
no, I guess it'd be a me quote. I'm saying it now.
You're
Was it Clay
Yeah,
quote?
he's saying it now, and he would like it on a T-shirt. Thank you.
I want that T-shirt. That's all
On
I'm
his
saying.
desk by Monday.
Yeah,
I don't know whose
Thank-
job that is, but I'm deciding it's not mine.
The interns
think-
that we
I don't
haven't got.
it's not mine.
Once we get an intern, that's what they're doing.
Yes.
Yeah, there we go.
Making
So
T-shirts.
when we have a Patreon, this is where your money's going
Mm-hmm.
to good places like that.
Yes, absolutely nowhere.
Definitely not Jeremy.
Definitely not to share.
You're right.
For the mics and the dice cams and the arms,
Yeah.
No.
Nothing. Nothing for me. Thank you.
the effects budget, that's his wallet,
Yep.
personal life savings.
We love you, Jeremy. Thank you for your contribution to the show.
It's true.
Also, while we're here, let's say thanks to Cascade Riders for existing in general and for having us as their podcast. I'm sure they're super stoked about that after episodes like this. And thank you to Special Brews for giving us beer and being our official sponsor. And thank you to everybody else who listens to the show and follows us in any capacity.
I did get this skull splitter at Special Brews,
Nice.
There you go.
but I paid my own money for it.
Okay, well, you're welcome, Special Brews.
That's
Next time.
because we believe in them.
That's because we believe. We know you're there after all.
We know how special they are.
Yes, we do. And how brew. So, anyway, that's a show. Ladies,
Is it?
gentlemen, everybody else, it's a show, or at least
Oh,
an
no.
Fermented
approximation
folks.
It is.
from our
I'm pretty
view
sure.
from YouTube folks. We'll see you next time. Thanks for tuning in. Goodbye.
Bye. Good night, Pedro.
Night, Pedro.
Bye, Pedro. We love you.